Hello again. So sometimes when it comes to pulling data into SPSS from other formats, we need to clean up those other formats first. And so today we're going to look at essentially extracting or getting data in an Excel file format and then needing to clean up that file format before we're able to pull it directly into SPSS. And so for this example we're using today, we're going to work with the improved water source data off the World Bank. And so that's this data file right here. And so we can download this data file and it gives us three different options: CSV, XML, and Excel. We'll go ahead and pull it down in Excel just so we can see this example in action here. So we'll download it into Excel and we'll see down here that the file has now downloaded, and I'm just going to go ahead and click it open so we can take a look at it. So the file it opened looks like this. It looks like it's opening up to the metadata indicators tab. This doesn't really do as much good in terms of trying to pull in the data. This is just giving us some overarching idea about the data we're actually looking at. In other words, what is the variable that this is looking at, this improved water source. So for our purposes, we're interested in the data tab. And so the data tab is the first tab here over on the left. And so the data as we see it here is listed with our country name in the first column, country code, indicator name. This could be sort of a description of the variable, the indicator code, and then we see all these countries listed, and this goes on over here. And we'll see that there's not much data at all here. If we scroll down, I think there may be no data there. And so we see that there's no data there, but that once we get to 1990, data begins to appear. And so data is over here on the right side, and we see it going through all the way to 2015. We see that there's a column for 2016, but 2016 doesn't have any data in it. And so the final year that we have data here is going to be 2015. And so we have all of these different variables here. And ideally, we would love to be able to pull this data file directly into SPSS. After all, it looks a lot like SPSS in terms of having these different cells and these different columns. The problem we run into is that SPSS is going to be very annoyed by this information right here. And the reason for that is that this information up here, while it is important for describing what's in this data file, SPSS won't know what to do with this. And so as a way of working around this, we can go ahead and delete these first three rows. And again, these rows just contain some information about the data file, and we can scroll over. There's nothing else up there. It's just there at the very beginning. So we're going to delete these three rows. And we're going to make it now so that the first row we come into is going to be our variable name row. And again, we have country name, country code, indicator name, indicator code, and then we have the years. And so we're going to go ahead and save this file, having created it as such. And so we are going to go into our GW folder. And then we're just going to rename it Recode. And the reason I'm naming it Recode is that it's not the original file, it is a new file. Or I have altered the file based upon what I had downloaded. And so I'm just going to label it Recode there so I don't confuse it with the master file that I might have downloaded. Now I'm going to close this out. And I'm going to move this here so we can look at our SPSS screen. And so here we have SPSS open, and we just have ourselves a blank data file, or a blank data screen here. So we're going to pull the data in. And so to do that, we want to go to File, Open, Data. Again, that's File, Open, Data. And once we're in here, you want to go to the folder and you want to find and locate the folder from your drop-down menu where you stored it. And again, I stored it in my GW data folder, so I'm there. And then if I were to go over here, I would find that I'm not seeing that file. And again, the reason I'm not seeing it by default is because I'm only looking in SPSS at SPSS files and my folders. And so I want to change this so that now I'm looking for Excel files in particular. And so I've got a few Excel files here, but what I'll see is I've got my original file and then I've got this new file that I just created. And I know, again, it's the new file because I have underscore recode. So I'm going to double click on that. So SPSS is going to pull it into its data management file folder, not folder, I'm sorry, tool. And so once it's in here, you'll see that up top you have V1, V2, V3. These are going to be our variable names, except for the fact that we don't want that. What we want is we want this first row to be our variable names. And so we're going to be able to do that by going ahead and checking this box, read variable names from first row of data. And when we check that box, you'll see that now here in the top is country, country code, indicator, indicator. And you'll see that our year has switched so that now it has this @ sign in front of it. And that's simply because SPSS does not allow you to provide a variable name that starts with a number. So we've gone through and we've now got our data here, and we can scroll all the way over and we'll see that it has all of our years, including that last one of 2016, and the data seems to be filled in just fine. And so we can do one of two things. We can paste it and it'll generate our syntax for pulling it in, or we can go and click OK. I'm going to go ahead and click OK just so that we can pull the data in. And so you'll see the data has been pulled into this temporary data file. Again, our variable names, we have some labels over here. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on data view. And so we'll see now that the data has been pulled in where we've got our country name. And then again, we saw missing data in the Excel file here, so this is expected. And so then when we get over here to 1990, we begin to see data. And so here we have our different data. And we can scroll over and then again see at the end of it that 2016 is the blank column. There was no data in there in the Excel file either. Now this is great. We've got our data pulled into SPSS, but again what we've done is we pulled it into SPSS into a temporary file, and so we need to save this file. And so we can click on the disk up here at the top, and it opens up our save tool here, and you just want to make sure that you're saving it in the right place. And again, for me it looks like I've got it in my GW data folder, and that's where I'd like to save it. And so again, this was called this was data from the World Bank, and this was improved water source data. And I'm just going to call this master because this is the file. This is my first file. This is the main file, and so I'm going to click go ahead and press enter, which is the equivalent of clicking save, and you'll see that now I have in the upper bar of my window the name of my new file. And so now I have created my new data file, and I will be able to go in and analyze the data accordingly. And so that is how sometimes when you pull in data from Excel, you'll need to go into the Excel file first and adapt it in order to be able to pull it in cleanly to SPSS.